Mario Cristobal's loafers move in silence. The Miami Hurricanes have just added a defensive tackle transfer from the 205 to the 305. Jamil Burroughs, welcome to the
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, longtime South Florida sports radio vet, and contributor to allhurricanes.com. And thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen. For the everydayers, we are available free wherever you get your podcasts and available free on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. So not only did Miami add Jamil Burroughs, 6'3", 310-pound defensive tackle from Alabama, he transfers to Miami. This news broke yesterday. He had been enrolled in classes at Miami and practicing for at least a week. So this was kudos to Mario Cristobal, kudos to his staff and everyone involved in keeping this secret for at least a week. And then people are asking me, Donno, are you doing your job out there covering the team? How come you didn't know about this? How come the media didn't know about this? For the past week, practices have been completely closed to the media. So I had no way of seeing Jamil Burroughs out there with my own eyes. I'm really happy he's a Hurricane, and I'm really happy the truth teller is back. He was off on a cruise last week. Bruce Warner is back with us here on a Truth Teller Thursday. It's also game week, and it's almost game day. Bruce, how are you?
I agree with the fans. Why don't you know? Look at me. I don't know either. But,
Yeah.
But you know what? I don't know why he's not eligible. I know they're saying he's probably not going to be.
Yeah.
But they should know already. If he's been here a week, they should know whether he can or can't. Why can't he? If he didn't enter the portal, which he didn't, did he get here because he was dismissed? If there was an incident there, how do you not dismiss him? So I don't really know, but I know Miami's looking into it. And if they could find a way to get him eligible, I don't know about the first 3 or 4 games other than A&M, but they could use him in the second half of the season. That's when they got North Carolina, you got Florida State, you got Clemson. So why not?
And you bring up another question fans are asking, okay, like, how come this guy's leaving Alabama? Is he not any good? Could he not cut it up there? You talked about an incident up there, Bruce. So Jamil Burroughs, the reason why he's no longer with the Alabama Crimson Tide, it's strictly disciplinary, whether that was his decision to leave or their decision to essentially kick him off the team. We don't know that for sure. But if not for an incident where he allegedly struck a coach, not Saban, but he allegedly struck a coach up there, that's why he's no longer on the team. If not for that incident, my understanding is he was potentially on track to be a starter in Tuscaloosa this year. This is a really good player. Let me give you his stats from last season. Played in 11 games in 2022, 8 tackles, 2 TFL, 2 quarterback hurries, and he had a sack last year. He's a former 4-star recruit in the class of 2020. Everybody wanted this guy. He's got, because the 2020 year didn't count because of COVID, I think he's got 3 years of eligibility left. And as Bruce mentioned, we're still trying to figure out 100% for sure if he can be eligible to play this year. My understanding is probably not. I think this is a move for 2024, but just based on us not even knowing he was with the team for the past week, I'm just going to say there's a lot we still don't know about Jamil Burroughs.
Yeah, but I can tell you this. He's one of the best pass rushing defensive tackles in the country. So this is exactly what I've been saying we've needed for the last 6 months. I'm doing this show. Somebody who can get up the field and create havoc in the backfield. Now, Taylor can do that too. That's what we're hoping he does. And that would take a lot of pressure off of him and the backup guys. And the backup guys like Dean and them, they could be backup guys. But I'm assuming he's not going to play this year until we find out otherwise.
Right.
But a hell of a player, though, to have going forward.
I think he could end up being kind of the next version at Miami of what Gerald Willis was a few years ago. I think he's that type of defensive tackle. And to what you're saying, Bruce, whether or not Jamil Burroughs can play this year or not, It's going to be really important next year because Leonard Taylor is likely on to the NFL next year. They're losing some important bodies at the defensive tackle position. So, not only you hope guys like Joshua Horton and Ahmad Moten are ready to step up big time, but to have a guy like Jamil Burroughs anchoring that interior of your defensive line next year makes me feel really good.
Yeah, don't get too caught up in Leonard Taylor leaving. He's been here 2 years. He's admitted this week that he took off plays. He admitted he didn't really work as hard as he should have. So, and the NFL is not stupid. I know Mel Kiper has him as the 13th pick in the first round.
Right.
You can't go by that. That's something that if he performs well, it could happen. If he doesn't perform well, if he's just better but not great, they're not going to give him first round money for a guy that admits he takes plays off and doesn't bust his ass in the offseason. So we'll see about that. Everybody's saying that. I know you've said it. They said it about James Williams too. Based on what? Right?
A lot depends on how good those two guys are this year.
Yeah, well, but I'm excited. The game is tomorrow night. I'm excited not only about the players, we're all excited to see the coaching staff. I want to see what these guys call. I want to see the play calling. I want to see the defense. Look, this is the first game against the team we should beat, but man, is there a lot of excitement.
And we're going to give you guys in a few minutes our X factors for the game tomorrow night. Miami against Miami. Miami of Florida against Miami of Ohio. I want to get to one last thing about Jamil Burroughs, Bruce, before we move on. Now, I mentioned the reason why he's no longer in Tuscaloosa was a disciplinary incident, and it's a serious allegation. It's a serious thing if he struck a coach. Does that concern you at all about, maybe what sort of baggage he might be bringing down here?
Well, yeah, I kind of mentioned that last night, but he didn't get arrested.
Right.
So I don't think they're going to arrest him after all. It's been some time already. So that's not going to happen. The decision really is on Mario and maybe even Alonzo as to what they thought about this incident. But obviously he's here. You say he's enrolled in the school. He's taking classes. So the next and only step would be, is he eligible or not? I'm for it, but I don't know much about this kid. I don't know much about his history at all. But I'm for it. If they say it's okay, who am I to say don't bring him here? Everybody deserves a second chance.
Bingo. And based on conversations that I've had over the past 12 hours, my understanding is, and this is something that would be, I think, a safe assumption, Mario Cristobal and Alonzo Highsmith have vetted him very carefully. I mean, you think about some of the reference points. You've got his former teammate, Javion Cohen, on the team now. He and Javion were actually in the same recruiting class. So I'm sure Cristobal had some conversations with Javion Cohen to get a sense what kind of a young man is this. And Bruce, I haven't heard this for a fact, but it would not surprise me if Cristobal got on the phone with Nick Saban and talked about this player, because Mario and Nick, they used to work together. They have a relationship. So I'm sure Cristobal and company did all the research possible to make sure this is a guy who's, not going to ruin our locker room or anything like that before they brought him down.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I've not heard Saban making any public statements about this kid. No. So, I don't know if he was kicked off the team. I think we would know about that. He might have just walked away and said, look, I can't play here. This is bad. But I don't know the answer. Right now, he's here. He's going to be a Cane, whether it's this year or next year, but still that's one less problem to worry about, especially when you lost Stone and all these other guys.
I know.
This kid's pretty damn good.
Yeah, he's really good. All right, so when we come back, Miami versus Miami, Ohio, tomorrow night, Friday night, we've got our X factors. What are we looking for in Miami versus Miami? Bruce Warner, the truth teller, is with us right here on Locked On Canes. Guys, I hope you've been taking advantage, all the small business owners out there, of LinkedIn Jobs, because these days every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available, and that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. I've gotten jobs through LinkedIn Jobs before. I know this works. You add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. Folks, LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen today. College football season is here, and this season, Locked On is kicking up our coverage with Locked On College Football Kickoff Live each Friday. Premieres tomorrow. Locked On will go live from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on every Locked On College YouTube channel, including this one. College Football Kickoff Live will cover playoff implications. The conference rivalry games go in-depth like only Locked On can, including insight and analysis from our stable of Locked On College hosts covering their teams every day. And guys, I'm going to be an analyst on that show every single week, so I'm going to be part of that tomorrow. Find Locked On College Football Kickoff Live every Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern time on any Locked On College channel, YouTube. You're not going to want to miss it. All right, and our Hurricanes finally play tomorrow night. And so, Bruce, here's an X factor I'm going to be looking for. And I think Miami, Ohio could be a reasonable test to this. Miami's running defense, right? I mean, we were just talking about defensive tackles. Run defense was a problem for this team last year. You know, Miami, Ohio, they've got a handful of new offensive linemen. That's one of the few spots where they've had turnover. Outside of the O-line, most of their personnel is the same from last year. So they have some stability. They didn't run the football that well last year. The Red Hawks, they did return their top rusher from last year, Keon Mose, who's a pretty talented player. So maybe if the offensive line for them is better. According to Lance Guidry, Miami's run defense has gotten better throughout camp. They had some issues early on stopping the run. So to me, it's got to start there with the run defense, because if Miami, Ohio can't run the football, they're going to have a hard time scoring against our Miami.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And I think that most teams should try to run against Miami. They really should. They had a problem sealing the edge. They had a problem, on 3rd and long. They had problems with quarterbacks getting out of the pocket and making plays. But the run defense, you have to be concerned. Now, Miami of Ohio's defense returns 9 starters.
Yeah.
Our defense is good. And I think they were like number 2 or 3 in the nation in takeaways. So they're not bad. This is a good test. This is not Bethune-Cookman and Florida A&M. These guys are legit. And so Miami better be ready tomorrow. And my question has been, and you've heard me say this for 6 months, and our listeners, same thing. How can you have a bunch of new defensive guys and be coordinated, to be cohesive, to play as a unit? These guys have not played one down. There's so many new bodies on both sides of the ball. And so that's my concern, is the cohesiveness. What have they done to get these guys to be on the same page? So you know what? For Mario and the staff tomorrow, it's trial and error. It's going to be like that because they really don't know what they're going to have till they show up. Tomorrow is a great test for this football team in every aspect of the game. Because I know everybody's thinking ahead, but you can't. Look at Middle Tennessee State. Look what happened. So, again, I love the talent. I love the turnover. There's 40 new players, 41 including the transfer. And there's 6 or 7 new coaches with 2 new coordinators. So does anybody really know what we're going to see tomorrow? I hope it's really good. But I expect to be some busted plays and things like that.
Yeah, and right, because not only are there a lot of new players and new coaches, but it's a new scheme on both sides of the football. And sticking with the defense, Lance Guidry's scheme is not that simple. I think it's going to get more complicated as the year goes on and his players get more comfortable in it. But it's very much built on confusing the opponents. We're going to see, a lot of disguised coverages and fronts and a lot of movement. So I wonder how much that can kind of baffle the opposing offense. We'll find that out. And then another X factor, Bruce, and this is an area Miami's not been great at for the past couple of years, our Miami, that is tackling. Because during fall camp, you can only work on that so much, right? Because teams are really, really careful, not only for player safety these days, but you don't want to tackle too hard in practices because you don't want to go through training camp with too many injuries. So they've very seldomly been tackling at full speed during fall camp. Now we're going to see how the tackling improves. And I just look at one thing that gives me comfort, Bruce, is Miami has brought in linebackers who are strong tacklers. You're not going to have issues with that with a guy like Kiko Mauigoa. His tackling will be fine. KJ Cloyd, Wes Basaint, who was here last year, but he's one of Miami's better tacklers, right? Hopefully James Williams has been working on that tackling. I trust Cam Kinchins to tackle, but if Miami's going to have some of those disgusting missed tackles that they've had over the past couple of years, this game could be a lot closer than we think.
Yeah, well, I also brought this up on a show, which I think there's a lot of concern still as to whether or not Mario is a really good coach. And, maybe I shouldn't bring it up today, but as the truth teller, I think there's a legitimate amount of Miami Hurricane fans that are concerned, and maybe rightfully so. So I know there's talent. I know there's been change and turnover, but let's see. Because last year, I think we were out-schemed and out-coached in a lot of games. We looked really bad. Middle Tennessee State, Duke. I mean, they made us look silly.
Yeah.
Florida State made us look like we would never even practiced. So, yeah, I have a concern. I'm excited about what's going to happen, but I think there's still a wait and see.
I want to talk about a couple of X factors on special teams when we come back, not to mention the offense, because I'm really bullish on the offense starting with that offensive line, but there's a couple things they've got to show us tomorrow night. So we're only getting started here. Alex Donno and the truth teller, Bruce Warner. You want to keep it locked right here to Locked On Canes. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen today. We are available free wherever you get your podcasts and free on YouTube. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, that like button if you're watching our YouTube channel. If you're listening to the audio version, make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Odyssey app, wherever you get your pods. And if you want to take your everydayer experience to the next level, sign up for our exclusive SMS texting community through Subtext. We include the link in the show description below. You can become a show VIP. I answer your questions on there one-on-one. You get text messages directly from my phone to yours. We give you guys breaking news, show previews, recruiting scoops, and updates. You can try it free for 14 days. And then if you like it, opt in for $4.99 a month. We give you a lot of added value on there on Subtext. Bruce, this is obviously going to change matchup by matchup, but I can't wait to see the balance between the passing game and the running game because, you got an offensive coordinator who comes with that air raid label, which is not really like that. That's not it's Shannon Dawson's DNA, but he's not like a 70-80% pass heavy guy. He appreciates a balanced offense or else he wouldn't be here right now because Cristobal wouldn't hire somebody who didn't want to run the football. So I'm curious to see how much success Miami can have on the ground, our Miami with, the Hurricanes' improved offensive line, and I think an improved running back group versus how many shots they're going to take down the field from Tyler Van Dyke.
I think that they're going to be somewhat wide open tomorrow, but they're going to hold things back. And I also think you want to know, my X factors are the two coordinators, not any of the players.
Yeah.
Because I want to see what they dial up on defense, and I want to see what happens offensively with Dawson. And, I know they're going to be very physical. Mario wants physicality in the worst way. I expect to be a lot of runs tomorrow, a lot of short passes. They'll take chances over the top. And unless they have to open it up because they're behind or it's a close game, I don't expect that. I think they're going to do a lot of things tomorrow to show A&M certain looks, and then they'll show them the same looks next week, only they're not going to run the same play. That's what I'm talking about with Dawson and the offensive coordinator to set up for the following week's game. I don't think they're going to throw the whole playbook out tomorrow. I just don't see it because you don't want film on that. But the physicality on both sides of the ball, I really want to see that. I want to see sharp tackling. I don't want to see bad angles from different players. And you want to see what these young receivers can do. Ray and the kid from Bama, Harrell, and of course Kobe Young. He lost weight. Let's see what he can do. Jacoby George, another X factor because he's had a damn good offseason. So there's a lot to look at. And of course, everybody wants to see Leonard Taylor, but we all want to see Bain. Everybody wants to see Bain tomorrow, because they've talked about Bain since, when I went to the practices and the scrimmages, all of the talk is about Bain. He's in the backfield constantly. So I think that's another X factor. Look at this guy.
Yeah, no, those are great ones. And I'm glad you brought up Ruben Bain because if you didn't, I was certainly gonna. He's mature, and I'm curious to see how Bain, lines up, right? Because if your defense is going up against obvious passing downs like a 3rd and long, you might want to line him up in the interior, to rush the passer, and then you can still use guys like Nigel Kelly and Akeem Mesidor, Jafari Harvey on the edges, and because Ruben Bain, he's big enough and versatile enough to play inside and out.
Yeah, I think they're going to move him around. Again, look, I think that a lot of these young kids are going to get playing time.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see whether both Browns start in the corner. I don't know. I'm sure Damari's going to start, but
Devontae's going to start
because he's number 7. He's been there. But there's a lot of talk about the younger brother. So there's so many things that we all want to look at for tomorrow because of the roster turnover that you can't help but being excited about that. And I do think Miami wins this game something like 38-17, something like that. I think it's going to be a close game for a while, but I think I said they're going to score 35-40 this year, and I'm sticking to it.
So you gave me your score. You gave me your score prediction. Hold on. I want to, I made, this is just so funny. I don't remember this by heart, but I think I had a 35-10 was my prediction, our Miami against the other Miami, 35-10 Hurricanes over Miami, Ohio. I published it at allhurricanes.com this morning. So something like that. This is not going to be a game where you just win it running away and you score 70 points. Like you said earlier, that would be a Bethune-Cookman type of scoreline, not a Miami, Ohio type of scoreline. I think we're going to see the Hurricanes. You talked about the approach on offense. I think they're going to be somewhat conservative to start the game because I think they want to see how much they can outmuscle these guys, right? Because, Miami, Ohio has a pretty good defensive front and they're disruptive, but, they shouldn't be able to match up with the likes of Javion Cohen, Jalen Rivers, Matt Lee, Inez Cooper, who's gigantic, and Francis Mauigoa, who's an 18-year-old man-child. Like, they should not be able to really match up man for man with Miami's offensive line. So I think the Canes are going to go pretty run-heavy early, and then if that works, they'll stick to it and just wear the opponent down. I think that's going to be the approach tomorrow.
Well, next week's game is they have really good defensive line, and Shamar Stewart's not one of them.
Yeah.
He doesn't start.
He should come home. Like, what's he even doing there?
Yeah, that's hard to believe that he's not even starting.
I know.
But if he doesn't want to come back, don't come back. Who cares?
Yeah.
That's his fault. But I think tomorrow's going to be an exciting game for so many reasons. I don't expect us to lose. I think we're going to win by at least 2-3 touchdowns. But again, their defense is pretty good.
So here's another. There's a couple of X factors, Bruce, on special teams. I'll start with who's going to be returning kicks and punts because Miami is intentionally keeping that a secret, which I'm fine with. I'm not one of these media guys who's like, I've got to know everything. Like, if you want to keep some things close to the vest, it's fine, man. If you don't want to give your opponent any advantage, because we had the media had a video call with Xavier Restrepo yesterday and a few other players, but Restrepo was specifically asked, hey, are you going to be, returning kicks and punts this year? Because he was working a lot as a returner last year. And he basically said, I don't think I'm allowed to talk about that. So it sounds like Miami wants to keep this a secret. And obviously Restrepo is definitely a candidate to get some work returning.
Him and Jacoby George.
Yes. Also Brashard Smith.
Right.
And I wonder if we might see a guy like Chris Johnson, the freshman, doing something like that because he's got those 200-meter and 100-meter Florida records. Like but do you trust him because he's so young?
No,
so
maybe on a kickoff return. I don't know about a punt.
Yeah, probably.
Why not put Harold back there? He can fly, but I don't know that either because they didn't have the punts. They had punting, but they didn't have returns when I went.
Right.
There were no returns, so it does whatever. The punter's important too because look who we're replacing.
Yes.
That's he's got no action, but he's practicing in the practices punting.
Yeah, that's a great point as well because Lou Headley, big shoes to fill. And by the way, congratulations to Lou Headley because he made the final roster in New Orleans. He's the New Orleans Saints starting punter. I'm so happy for Lou. Yeah. Well deserved. I'm not surprised he got that job there. But now Dylan Joyce, can Dylan Joyce fill those big shoes left by Lou Headley?
Yeah, well, he flipped the field for us for a couple of years, and that's all you could ask for of a punter. But look, I'm excited about tomorrow. I think we're going to win, and I think next week we'll all be talking about Jimbo Fisher
Yeah.
Bobby Petrino, and there was some I heard somebody talk about Petrino and Jimbo because Jimbo's not calling the plays. Let's see what happens when a couple of the plays don't work and they start yelling and screaming at each other. That could be a mess.
That's going to be a power trip because Petrino, obviously, he's been humbled in recent years, but he's still an egomaniac. We all know Jimbo is an egomaniac, so that dynamic is going to be really, really interesting. So huge thank you and shout out to everybody who took time out of your day to watch and listen to this episode. Remember, if you listen to the audio version, make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the Odyssey app, Google Play, wherever you get your pods. If you're watching the video version on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button and make sure you subscribe to our channel. And it's always great catching up with the truth teller. Bruce, I'm surprised you didn't come back with a tan from that cruise you were on.
When I have skin cancer, which I've had, I can't do that. But by the way, speaking of your LinkedIn, I just went on there and I saw that somebody is asking for a Tuesday morning co-host on a Locked On Canes sports talk show. So you're replacing me?
No, I hope I'm not being replaced.
No, it said something about I got to get rid of this truth teller.
Well, it's either somebody's getting replaced, whether it's you or me. But
no, I'm just kidding. I didn't go on there.
Okay, good. But everyone should go on.
I know you're not going to get replaced. I could be replaced, but you can't.
You are irreplaceable. So we will talk to everybody tomorrow. We'll have keys to the game on tomorrow's episode before Miami take on Miami, Ohio. And remember, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., 2 hours streaming live on this channel, Locked On College Football Kickoff Live. I'm going to be a panelist on there. Me and Kenton Gibbs and Drake Toll from Locked On Baylor is going to be hosting the show, and we'll talk about whatever happens between Florida and Utah, and we'll preview the big games coming up on Saturday. So we will talk to you Friday on another episode of Locked On Canes, part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.